You know, there's been a few people asking me if Dorothy's Spirit's going to go on, and it will, because she's been here for a long time, and there's been questions about what's going to happen to the place, and it's pretty much all going to get naturalized, you know, torn down. There's been some suggestions about taking one of the cabins into Ely and setting it up as a memorial, and I gave the panel fence that you all know about, and the plane to the Ely Chamber of Commerce, and they're gonna put it up in town there for all the people to see. And they're talking about maybe bringing the cabin in there, which would be kind of nice. And the family's gonna auction some of her belongings, you know, just odds and ends. And I couldn't begin to name some of the things. And the proceeds from that are going to go towards the fund for like a wildlife project, you know, either out here or in the Ely area.
As I was sitting at my desk trying to figure out what I was going to say today that would make a fitting goodbye to Dorothy, I found myself short of words, which most of you know that's pretty unusual. For many of us who have had the privilege of meeting this gracious lady, we will never forget this, nor what she has done for us through many years. There are two characteristics that I found that made Dorothy Malter the person she was. And that was her love and care for those who were in need, and for visitors, and her hospitality. And it was her love for God's created beauty, in which we are in the midst of. Dorothy served and was dedicated to the care of others, as was evidenced by her schooling as a nurse in Chicago. When she came here, her care and her concern continued, helping those who were in trouble, inviting those in who needed help, caring for those who were hurt and sick and injured, and simply being here in case we needed her. There was always coffee on, a bottle of root beer, a smile, and a place to rest. And indeed, we will miss her. Many people took refuge in her cabin when the weather was bad to travel, and always Dorothy invited them in and allowed them to stay. All of us here, in one way or another, have known her hospitality and her friendship. And in some way, our lives have been changed by her in ways that words cannot fully express. And indeed, that was a mark of a truly great lady. This is the beauty which Dorothy was immersed in, and thus immersed in God. This is the beauty off of which Dorothy lived, and so lived with God. This is the beauty in which Dorothy died, and so she died with her God at her side, and now she lives with him.
The same winter, or the winter after, that happened, who drove in my yard, but the attorney for one of those environmental groups. Kind of surprising in any way to be up there, but or anybody else for that matter in the middle of winter, but he came in and he said, "Is Dorothy up at her cabin?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you know, I wrote her back several weeks ago, wrote her up there, I wanted to ski up there with some friends, and she never answered me." I said, "You're lucky she didn't invite you up there and shoot you." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you can't figure that out. I know how you got through law school." And it was about maybe a week after that, there was a bunch of us up fishing. And I stopped in and had coffee with Dorothy and said, "Hey, did you get a letter from that attorney, the environmental group?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "What'd you think of it?" She said, newspapers didn't know much about that kind of stuff. They didn't know that she had all those whiskey bottles in the window. That's kind of neat, you know. And some of you guys back there remember those. She had a whole row of them there. And of course, that was kind of emergency supply for guides and trappers and ice fishermen and whatever was drifting in and out of there. And I see a few guys around here that had a couple up there too. And what she, of course, she had a label on each one with the right guy's name, so, you know, they would get them mixed up. And then she put a pencil line there, you know, to mark where it was at the last stage. These guys come in for an emergency, you know, they want to make sure that it wasn't below where they put the pencil line and somebody else wasn't tapping their stuff. And that was kind of neat, you know, she didn't mess around with it, but she had it there because she realized that some of those fellas coming in there, they might be in pretty desperate straits there, you know. And she had that. And of course, there's 8 million stories. They go on and on and on about that lady. Now, there was something like 1,000 snowmobiles went up there yesterday. There isn't anybody in this whole state, nobody else, that they would have done that for.